what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Hangout Live here. We've got a solo edition with me this evening. Robby, unfortunately, is making his way across the country. He just got done playing a few shows actually over in Florida, so he will not be joining us for the beginning of the show. Hopefully, he'll show up sometime during the show. Hey, Cora, how are you? Sorry about last week. The fact that we weren't able to do the show with Luis Maldonado from the legendary group Foreigner. Sadly, I went through COVID, still kind of feeling the effects from it, but we are here tonight and we're getting after it. I am on the mend. Thank you very much. Hi, Kimberly. How you doing? So tonight we've got Austin Moe joining us. Austin is working with the legend himself, Frank Hannon. And Frank seems to have a lot of projects, man, and they're doing extremely well. And I think we just get after it here and let's bring Austin in. Austin, are you ready? What's going on,
yes,
brother?
Sir. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, my friend. Well, thanks for coming on. Sorry that Robby wasn't able to join us. He's dealing with airport nightmares today. I'm sure you've been a victim of that in your time as performing. So,
oh, yeah.
It's not a fun deal. You can see that the country's kind of slow right now. So hopefully he'll be back here and being able to join us before we get off tonight.
Yeah.
So, Austin, let's talk about you, brother. You grew up in California, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Born and raised.
Born and raised in California. What part? Around LA or what?
Actually, up in the Sacramento area.
All right. Cool, man. Up north. So let's talk about growing up in California. The influences of music out there are obviously absolutely crazy and all over the board. Growing up in your home, what was it with music that mom and dad were playing around the house?
So the earliest stories that they have when it comes to we'll call it life with music, because addiction is a very strong and powerful word. I consider it's just my life in general. And when I was 3 years old, I could hardly talk. I was a baby and broken English and all this stuff. We're learning. My dad would play AC/DC's TNT while he would drive me around, like if we went to the store or whatever. And my mom didn't know this. And so the intro, it's the classic oi, oi, oi. And so my dad picks my mom up and we're going to wherever, probably dinner or something. And he plays it and he goes, check this out. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I start singing along with the intro. And she's like, what are you doing to our son? He's 3. He doesn't know what he's talking about. What's going on? And so that's how the seed was planted. And then as I grew up, my mom would play Johnny Cash to Merle Haggard to Garth Brooks and Keith Urban, not Keith Richards. And my dad would play Black Sabbath, Dio, Kiss, AC/DC, as I mentioned, both Brian and Bon era. And really just the good stuff. Some Dio mixed in there with a little bit of Kid Rock and Ted Nugent. And so that was kind of my musical upbringing before I started playing guitar. And what really sparked interest in my pursuit of actually playing the thing is around, I think, 2008 to 2010, there was this game that came out called Guitar Hero. And it was basically, 5 buttons. It's a video game. You play the song and, it feels like you're an actual rock star. Well, it got to the point where I could play the hardest song on the hardest difficulty and not miss a note while I'm having a conversation with my dad across the room, not looking at the TV. And so he's sitting there watching me do this time and time again on different songs and different, versions of the game that came out. And he's sitting there thinking, Austin's learning the song, but on a plastic guitar. So what would happen if I actually got him a guitar? Like, that was his thought. And so he asked me one day, I was just playing, talking, and he goes, hey, so do you want to play like a real guitar? And I was like, man, I really don't want to work off a guitar because, I would heard that they could be thousands of dollars. And I really didn't want to mow the lawn that many times and do the dishes and laundry and stuff. So I was like, yeah, it'd be cool. But I really don't want to, just to be frank with you, Dad, I don't want to do that many chores. And so after that conversation, my dad called his buddy and he said, "Hey man, Austin's learning this game. He's really too good at it. I fear that if I don't give him an actual guitar, he's just gonna, end up at some McDonald's somewhere with a real love for music, but never actually pursuing it. I want him to at least have a shot." And the guy goes, "Okay, I want you to come over to my mom's house where we grew up, and I want to show you something that I've never shown you in the entirety of us knowing each other." He goes, "Okay." So he drives over, meets the guy at the house and stuff, and they walk into a room and he pulls out this guitar and he opens up the case and he goes, "Okay, so this is my older brother's first guitar and it was handed down to me. It's an original 1974 Gibson Flying B. And if Austin has any interest in music, I'll let him borrow this for 2 months. I want it straight back, but that'll give him enough time and for you enough time to see if he really wants to do this thing or if he like picks it up, learns a song, puts it down and never touches it. That's cool too." Well, that guitar I actually ended up having for a little longer than 2 months. It was actually 12 years. And thankfully, the guy was super cool with allowing me to have it that long. It's actually the black and white Flying B that's featured in my first music video that I produced. Well, produced is not the right word. That I put out with Frank Hannon. It's called The River. And man, does that guitar just, it's home. I mean, it's how I started. And I wish I could still play it. I know maybe sometime I'll be able to invite the guy over and talk him into let me jam on it a couple more times. But that was pretty much the beginning of how I started to play guitar and my love of music. And I really owe it a lot to my parents because without them exposing me to that kind of music, oh man, I think I'd probably be a DJ or something, with pop 40 stuff. Completely polar opposite to what would have happened. Oh, I think you might still be muted. There you go.
Am I here?
Yeah, there we are.
All right. I said, be nice to the DJs now. We play your music.
Oh no, that's not a diss.
Hey,
That's
come
not
on
a diss. But I'm just saying, it probably would have been music related, but just polar opposite to what I'm doing.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about this. So 16 years old, you're one of 5 kids chosen from the United States to attend the world's first international blues camp in London. Man,
Yes.
how surreal was that? Tell me about how that went for you.
Well, the original pursuit for that, shall we say, my mom and I were looking around for endorsements and sponsorships because at the time I was in high school. I would go out to these jams at these bars where everybody's like a minimum of 2 to 3 times older than me on stage. So I would
Right.
hold my own and play pretty well. The solos were okay for what I could do. And every week I was learning and progressing even more. So my mom's sitting here thinking, well, I've got to get him like some endorsements. I'm sure they're out there. She had heard of South by Southwest. I
Right.
believe that's the name of it, which is, they would sponsor kids and fly them out to wherever they would need to go and whatever. And so another search that had appeared, like suggestion was Blues Kids of America. And I was really into Stevie Ray Vaughan, Joe Bonamassa at the time, and
Oh, hell yeah.
Freddie and BB King, John Mayer, and Kenny Wayne Shepherd. So just all this love for the blues. And my mom goes, "Oh, that sounds kind of cool." So we clicked on that, and the auditions for Chicago and LA had just finished. Chicago, the camp had just finished and closed. We got there a day after the LA auditions had canceled, or not canceled, but completed. And so it was London, England, and then it was like, I think it was next year that they were starting to plan or whatever. So it said like, come back next year around this time and blah, blah. And my mom goes, "Hey, I found this website. This guy looks really legit. There's all these uber talented kids like you are, why don't we try and send an audition tape? And when I was 16, I'm still very stubborn, but at the time I was just really like, my head was made of steel, man. Like if I didn't think that it could happen, I was like, no way. Like, Mom, we don't have the money for that. What are we going to do? Are we going to sell? Like, I don't have enough guitars to be able to pay for flights and hotel and all this stuff. And so we went back and forth for a couple of days, and she goes, hey, I'm leaving for work. You better get out your guitar and make an audition tape, or else I'm taking it away and you can't play it for a month. And I was like, fine. And so I went onto the website, and they had a bunch of random backing tracks. Now, I distinctly remember they didn't tell you the key of the song. There's just like slow blues, like jazz shuffle. And they didn't say like key of A, key of B, and all this stuff. And it also said there was a separate list of tunes. It said, also, we will accept covers of B.B. King's The Thrill Is Gone and a couple of it like Boom, Boom, Boom and all this stuff like John Lee Hooker. So I said,
Right.
well, I know there's a backing track of The Thrill Is Gone because I was just jamming to it the other day. So I will get out my Tascam recorder, and it had just the two X and Y microphones just pointing out like that.
Right.
And I got out my amplifier, which is the exact style of amplifier that Johnny Winter used in the 1970s. It's the Music Man, and it's got the flange on it, so it sounds just like butter for the blues. It's just, you can't get any better than that, in my opinion.
Right.
So I cranked that all the way up, and I went over to my dad's stereo system, which was a Harman Kardon power amp with Sherwin Vega monitors. And the way that the volume works is negative like 99 all the way up to positive like 20. So what I did was I cranked it up all the way to 0. And this is at like 9 o'clock at night. So I was like, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I'm going to stick the recorder right here, put the amps facing each other, and just crank it, do it as best as I can in one take, and I'm done. Like, I was like, I'm doing this for my mom. I'm expecting a no, so let's just do it anyways. So that was where I was at mentally.
Right.
I played it with my heart, played it with my feel. I uploaded it. I sent it to them first, and then I let my mom hear it. And I was like, hey.
Wow.
Yeah, I was ballsy. That. Well, yeah, you could say it was ballsy, but I was like kind of throwing, like, looking back now, it's kind of like throwing a little tantrum.
Right,
as a kid,
right.
Or as a younger teenager. So I sent it to my mom. She goes, well, that's okay. I know you can play better, like at jams and stuff. You're way more. It just sounds like I don't know. I was like, well, hey, I already sent it to him, so I did what you wanted. I'm keeping the guitar. You're not taking it away. She goes, no. We'll see what they say. And within 24 hours, we got a letter back that said, congratulations, you're accepted into the camp. Please let us know if you can make it. If you can, we will reserve a spot for you there.
Wow.
And I was like, oh boy, now how are we going to do this?
Yeah.
And at the time, I was being mentored by Ike Turner's first daughter, Twana Turner, who was helping me a lot with my singing and showing me how to still play with feel, but not sound like a Stevie Ray Vaughan copycat. Because whenever I'd go out and play, people would say, oh my gosh, this kid sounds just like Stevie Ray Vaughan. It's fantastic. And, she would take the compliments and it's like, yeah, I'd sit in with gigs with her and stuff. And so to show me what she was talking about, because I really didn't understand, she invited me to her house and put on just like a little backing track and hit record. She goes, okay, play like normal, and then I'm going to come back up and talk to you. And I was like, okay. So we jammed, and the track had ended. And so she hit play. She goes, who does that sound like? I said, well, I just played it, so I guess it would be me. She goes, no, who does it sound like? And I was like, well, it sounds a lot like Stevie Ray Vaughan. She goes, okay, so where's Austin Moe? Where are you in this solo? I said, well, I don't really know. She goes,
Right.
okay, well, in order to separate yourself and become an artist, influences are great and you can pick and choose what you want to put into your arsenal, but you need to be able to show your song to somebody and for them to be able to hear a different song of yours and say, hey, I know that guitar, I know that sound,
Be distinct. Yeah.
I know that is Austin Moe. So that was one of the things that she was showing me. And once the London competition got back to me and stuff, we told her about it. And she actually threw a benefit to help raise funds to send me off to London. There was a ton of killer people who showed up, people I'd never even met before. And one of the guys actually played our gig, or not the gig, but the fundraiser, and flew out literally like the last note, bam, he packed up and flew out to, I believe it was the now museum for John Lee Hooker. They were doing a fundraiser down in the South. And he's like, man, I got to go. I got to catch this flight. This is what I'm doing. And I was like, dude, you drove like 2.5 hours just to come and play for me. I've never met you. I said, thank you so much. Well, honestly, I really hope you make your flight and everything's okay. He goes, oh no, like Tawana's a really good friend and she's family. And whenever she says I need help, I can help her when I can. And so we raised a bunch of money and we had called Fox 40 to have me live on TV the day that I was supposed to fly out. We still didn't have our tickets and we weren't even packed because when we did the fundraiser, it was a lot of money and I'm thankful for it, but the flights were like still twice as much.
Right.
So we're on air. It's like 6 a.m. when I'm on TV, and that's nowhere near when I normally get up. So honestly, my brother is in high school and his friend's mom sees I'm on television. And so he's texting, she texts him, oh my gosh, I see Austin's going to London. I grew up there, blah, blah, blah. When's his flight? He goes, yeah, we don't have any. We couldn't swing the bat and, it's looking like he's going to miss this great opportunity. And she goes, well, would they go if they had a flight? And my brother was like, yeah, they already have my mom has the time off from work. Austin, I guess we're just having a little vacation. He'll just stay home until he was supposed to get back. And then we'll tell everybody. So 10 minutes later, he gets a text and it's flight confirmations under our name, me and my mom's name. She goes, I had enough points saved up traveling to see family throughout the years. Here's 2 round trip tickets for Austin and his mom. Tell him to go pack if they haven't, and your flight leaves at 9 a.m. And it was 7 a.m. when I got off the air. We raced home, got all of our stuff. I packed up my Fender Strat, or no, it was a Squier Strat. That's it's really nice sounding, man. I should bring it out sometime. But anyways, went to the airport. We flew off. I'd never been on a plane before, and I'd never been out of the country. And my first time being on a plane was a 13-hour plane trip, or flight, I should say, to London, England. And then when we got to customs, they were asking us all these questions like, okay, so what are you here for? Business? Is it personal? Is it pleasure? What's going on? And we're like, we don't know. We're staying,
rock, bro.
We're staying with some family. They're like, who is it? And we were like, they're related to Ike Turner. And they're looking at us like, and your family? Call them on the phone. And so they were giving us the riot act. But eventually we got in, and man, it was a life-changing experience, man. If I could relive it, I wouldn't change a thing. Even me being stubborn with my mom and, just, okay, I sent it kind of a deal. It was a magnificent event that I was able to be a part of.
That's badass, brother. That's badass. So tell me, where does Frank Hannon fit into all this? How do you go from that to being mentored by one of the greats from Tesla?
Oh, okay. So I'll do my best not to ramble on too much, but to sum it up, On my 21st birthday, we have a really good family friend of mine who's lived in the area for pretty much all of his life. He's watched Tesla since they were city kid. And I'd imagine pretty much everybody who's watching knows who that is. But for those who are unfamiliar with the name, it was Tesla before they changed their name. So they were like my age and younger, booking their own clubs, having kegger parties, and, just having a good time until they got picked up. So Tesla was actually playing the next week after my birthday, which my birthday is 9/11. They played on September 22nd. And so my family friend surprised me with tickets. And I thought to myself, well, I know a photographer that works exclusively with Frank for a lot of these shows. So why don't I hit him up to try and see if I can surprise my friend with like a little hello from Frank, and then we can go back to our seats and enjoy the show. Well, I hit up the photographer. He said, "Hey man, unfortunately, I'm not going to be in town. So why don't you just ask Frank? Have you already hit him up?" And I was like, "No, why would I do that?" He's like, just see, he likes hanging out with new people and you never know. So I talked with my mom. She was like, the worst thing he could say is no. And then you still get to go see them in concert. Just try it. So I made a very nice, little intro for myself. This is who I am. Been playing since I was 12, blah, blah. My friend, City Kid, all this stuff. And I was full on expecting, hey, Austin, since it's my hometown, unfortunately, our guest list is full. Right. And I woke up the next day. He goes, "Hey, man, I know who you are. I've been watching you for a couple of years. Thank you so much for reaching out. How many tickets do you need?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Backstage. How many tickets do you need?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is happening. 2 would be great."
Right.
And so we get there. We're getting in line. We're like the first people there. We're like, "Hey, man, Frank Hannon personally gave us these tickets. Can we go and say hi?" And the bouncer's all, "No, it doesn't say VIP or meet and greet." And I was like, "Yeah, but can you just radio Frank and tell him that I'm here?" "No." And I was like, "All right, he's just doing his job. I'm not going to get into it with the guy because I still want to see the show and I don't want to see it with one eye open." So we're watching the opener. We get into the show and we're hanging out. We go backstage and it's like a deserted like town just full of tour buses and SUVs and stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, and I tell my friend, I go, nobody would know if we just walked on the bus. Like, there's nobody here. He's like, "Yeah, dude, but what if they're changing and they're like fresh out of the shower? Like, that'd be kind of weird, like a first impression." I'm like, "No, I didn't think about that." So that's a good point. So we moseyed around. I got a picture with their backdrop. And we went back, sat down in our seats, and we're enjoying the opener. Well, I looked down at my phone, and it's a text message from Frank Hannon. He's like, sitting in the green room or whatever. He's like, "Hey, man, are you at the show? Or, if you missed it, no big deal, but are you here?" And I was like, yeah, we're here. But, I didn't want to disturb you because I know what it's like to get ready for a bar show, let alone playing in front of a sold out show of 5,000 plus people. Right. He goes, "Oh, nah, let me send my guy out. He'll bring you into the green room. Let's just hang out. I'd like to meet you." And then tell my friend. And he's like, "Oh, really?" I was like, "Yeah." And so I'm really nervous. And the guy comes out. He sees us. We're walking backstage. And there's photos from the first time that Frank and I met. And I'm just like super stiff. Like I got the biggest, like genuine smile. And we talked and talked and talked. And we kept in touch. And later that year, my band and I were able to open up for Frank and his personal project in, I believe it's Orangevale, California, at this place called The Boardwalk. And that was just like, I was on cloud nine. I legitimately cannot remember most of what we played just off of my head. I know we ended the night with Peter Frampton in my set. And then we ended Frank's set with Stranglehold. And there was like 4 other guitar players. It was just a wall of sound. And it was fantastic. And so after that show, Frank invited me up to his place his house actually up in well, I shouldn't say where it is, but up in Northern California. And so we started talking, and we weren't there to ask him for help, because that's a really big question to ask, especially for somebody with his accolades. Like,
Right.
I'm just at the time, well, still, I'm still an up and coming artist. I didn't want to offend him or anything. And so at the end of the visit, I brought my dad too, because he was a super huge fan as well. Frank is walking us to the car, and he goes, can I ask you guys something? And we're like, yeah, sure. What's up? So do you guys like want my help? And we're like, what do you mean? He goes, like Austin has some songs. You sent me some songs and they're good, but I really think that I can help Austin develop as an artist. Would you guys like my help? We're like, oh, yes, of course. Like, we'd be honored. I really didn't want to ask that because we know you're super busy. And he
Right.
goes, no, dude, I this is like kind of my thing. I really like helping out people. And so from that initial meeting and all the gigs and stuff leading up to that, he taught me a lot of how to write and identify a chorus and a hook in a song. Because when I had first met him, I sent him over some stuff, and it was mainly like some verses and like a guitar solo and maybe like kind of a bridge. But for the most part, we didn't know what my songs were lacking, like just based off of experience of trial and error. And I was like, man, I don't know how Sticks just sounds so great. And then there's my song that's okay. And then I listen to Tesla and it's just fantastic. And so after hanging out with Frank, and even when we weren't focusing on music, like he would have me come up and help tend his horses and do some yard work and stuff. The knowledge and experiences and even the stories that he told me were just so invaluable in helping me form the songwriter that I am now, and even the songwriter that I will be. It's just, I can't imagine a better way to learn how to write a song than just hanging out with one of the greats themselves.
Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah. The influence is definitely there with Frank. And he works with a lot of up and coming, with JT Lux and some of the guys that he's brought to the show are absolutely amazing. Now, we do have a couple people that are saying some things. Like Brenda wants to know if you know of a band called the Climax Blues Band. Have you ever heard of them?
No, but I like the name.
She says your playing reminds her a lot of that.
Oh, right on.
Everybody obviously is going on and talking about how fantastic you are. What does this say? Kim says, I'm like clapping. This is absolutely fantastic.
Oh, thanks, Kim. I appreciate it.
Frank Hannon rocks. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Frank's the man.
So before the show, you and I were kicking back and we were talking about playing the Whiskey A Go-Go and the iconicness of that club and the bands that have come through there. And you were telling me kind of a funny story about the green room. And I think you should share that on here.
Oh, all right.
Let's talk about the green room over at the
Okay. Well, when I reached out to the Whiskey A Go-Go, a little tiny band was playing there initially when I reached out. These guys, a couple of guys called Quiet Riot. And so
right,
they had played a local venue, and I was like, oh, they're on tour. They're going to LA. This would be great. We could open for them, and they might know who, they might hear me, like me, and pick me up. It's always the dream of, hey, just from now on, you're on the road with us, and let's go. So I reached out to them. They said, hey, unfortunately, we have all the slots filled with Quiet Riot. However, here's like 10 more dates if you want to open for any of these people. And I was like, oh my God, like I must have really impressed whoever I'm talking to for these shows. And so I was talking with my parents and my management, and they go, well, what days should we try and look for? Because in our estimation, these were every day of the week. So Friday, Saturdays, so we're like, okay, so who's playing Friday, Saturday? Don't know who they are. that wouldn't be a good fit. Da 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 da. And then we're like, wait a minute, we're going to NAMM in January. So what if we try and target our show for any of those shows? So I hit them back. I said, thank you so much for all these dates. What if I played during these dates in January? Do you have anything open? And so it was like Strawberry Alarm Clock, or I think his name is Bumblefoot, one of the guys who had worked with Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a coin toss between the two. I think Bumblefoot was on Friday and Strawberry was on Saturday. We were like, well, between the 2 days, typically, at least up here, Saturdays are more of a, people go out to drink and stuff like that. So let's go for Strawberry Alarm Clock. And myself being, I have a very, I would like to think, wide variety of music that I've heard. And when I listened to them, I was like, oh man, we're playing like Ted Nugent and stuff in our set. Like Strawberry Alarm Clock is like if you took the Beatles' Yellow Submarine album and just made a whole band off it. I'm like,
right.
They sound awesome. I just hope the crowd reacts in a very positive way. And so we go down to the Whiskey where we've done our sound check and all this stuff. And we're hanging out, and my bass player and I were like, dude, we got to go to the green room. He's like, really? I was like, look at where we're at. I go, any direction in this venue, they have pictures of, Kiss, Zeppelin. Anybody who's anybody has played there. So I'm like,
Right.
let's go up to the green room. And so we're climbing up the stairs, and the further up you get, Incense and Peppermints, they played it. Sorry. The further up you get into the upstairs, just the nastier the smell gets. And I'm like, okay, I should take my hand off the railing about here. This is got to go wash that. I'm walking up, and it's like this weird green, like it's not carpet, but it's just fuzz. But that was like the whole room, and like the walls were all just sharpied up from everybody who had played there. And it was a really interesting experience. I myself was just standing there like, dude, I'm not touching anything. And my bass player's like, no, come on, let's go in and let's like, experience it. I'm like, no, I'm good. I really don't want to get sick or catch anything from the 70s or whatever. But it was really cool, man. Like
some 70s STD or something.
Oh God. I mean, I'm just a little paranoid like that. And that's just to my own fault. But we went in there. I snapped a pic of it. I'm sure it's somewhere like printed out. But it was really cool just being in there. And actually a funny little mini story. While we were at the Whiskey, we had played our set, and our last song was Stranglehold. And so I'm thinking, this is going to be so cool. Everybody loves Stranglehold. And not thinking of where I was, number one, LA.
Right.
I asked the crowd, and we had about 150, 200, 250 people there. I go, hey, does anybody in here like Ted Nugent?
Oh.
Yeah. I wasn't thinking of my surroundings.
Right.
I heard like 40 no's in unison, and there was one dude at the bar way in the back. I'm pretty sure it was the bartender. He goes, yeah. And we have it on tape. I said, well, this one's for you, man. And we played Stranglehold, and little did we know, Strawberry Alarm Clock's tour manager actually was Ted's drummer for like 4 years in the 80s. And he goes, well, as soon as you said who likes Ted Nugent, I go, he was thinking to himself, he's either going to get booed off the stage or this is going to go really, really well. I wonder what song he's playing. And then I started Stranglehold. And as soon as I started it, he goes, I had a good feeling. And then once you really started getting into it, I was like, yeah, this kid knows how to play. And so after we got off the stage, like we're literally 1 foot on the ground and we're mingling amongst the people. You have 2 minutes to get your stuff off for the next band to come up. The next band had drove from Texas all the way out to go to NAMM and play this same show that we were at. The lead singer goes up to my bass player, and we're all on a high because we just played the Whiskey Go Go, and we're happy and stuff. He goes, "Hey man, thanks for warming the crowd up for us," just like that, like super, like that was our job, kind of cynical a little bit.
Whatever.
And my bass player is like super happy. He's like, "Yeah, man, no problem. Knock him dead. Have a good show." And so we're like walking out. I didn't know that happened. And like that guy was kind of giving me some dirty looks, but I really wasn't paying too much attention. And so I'm packing up, get my stuff out. We're packed. And he tells us this story. And we're like, "Spencer." He goes, "What's up?" I go, "That was not a compliment." "What do you mean?" I go, "Usually the first band in like a lineup like this, they're kind of betting that it's not going to be too great because then the next band is going to be even better, and it's like a progressive thing."
Right.
I go, "I'm pretty sure we just threatened that guy, like not physically or like verbally, but like his ego kind of got hurt, that the crowd blew up after Stranglehold and was like, 'One more song,' and then we had to get off the stage and stuff." And so yeah, I could go on all night about the whiskey, but it was just a surreal moment. And last thing, the outfit that I wore was a black and white paisley shirt because I'm kind of like in that vibe aesthetically. And Strawberry Alarm Clock comes out to check on the show, and I see them all, they're all dressed up by now. They're all looking over the ledge, and they're straight up wearing paisley. Like it looked like I ripped their clothes out of the closet. And as soon as I saw them, I was like, "Yeah, I'd like to thank Strawberry Alarm Clock for letting me borrow an outfit from them. I left mine at the hotel," as a joke, and nobody really got what I was talking about. And then I went back upstairs after our show, and the manager was all, "Yeah, man, you did really good, all things considered." I was like, "Thanks, man. It was really fun to be able to do this show."
A lot of people are coming on Uncle Ted rocks. Uncle Ted absolutely rocks, man.
Oh yeah. That's one of my bucket list shows, to be able to jam with him or open for him.
Right. And then somebody said that 70s shit has a nuclear half-life of 1,000 years.
Oh man.
I believe that is true. Yes. Ted uses our studios up in Waco. He lives up in Waco, so he uses our radio studios up there to do a lot of his podcast recordings and clarifications and stuff. But super cool dude. Love Ted. And of course, I'm in Texas, so
yeah, it helps.
I don't have that LA mentality.
Yeah, right.
So what's coming out, man? I know you dropped a single back in November. Let's talk a little bit about that now. It was called "Walk a Mile in My Shoes." Is that what it was?
It's close. It was called actually, hold on, I'm getting my songs confused. That was my second single that I released last year. So the newest single, oh man, I should start making notes for these. The newest single is called "I'm Wanted," and the thumbnail actually is a part of the video. We have an American flag backdrop. This isn't the flag, but the studio that we were jamming up at Frank Hannon's quarters, we'll call it, had a big old American flag, and the song had just like a real in-your-face kind of vibe. And so we're like, what if we had that in the background and we could really like emphasize certain parts of the lyrics? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so that's the American flag in the background, and it's on the cover art of the single and all that stuff.
Nice, brother. Nice. Hell yeah. So is Frank still helping with the EP that's coming out? You're hoping to do an EP, but it's got pushed back a little bit, right?
Yeah, we were going to try and release it in this quarter. We've had a couple of meetings with some different people, and we're actually trying to and some advice that was given to me from a couple of different people in the industry was, this music is so good, you should really try and shop it to some record labels with some power and some presence, because if you could get them to sign on to release this, it'll do yourself much better in the long run, rather than if you release it now as your own, and then try and shop it, it might not be as enticing because, people have already heard it. You know, one guy was telling me record labels and even just PR companies in general, they like to be able to kind of get a hold of that new sound,
Right.
and be able to say that, oh, we discovered this person, and if you want to get to them, you got to get through us, kind of a deal.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're at. We're sending it to a couple of people and, seeing if any fish bite. And if there aren't, then we'll just release it. And I've got to say, these songs in this EP and the couple of singles that we have scheduled are some of my favorite songs that I've written just in my lifetime.
Nice, brother. And you got a long way to go from here. I think your career is just really kicking off. And according to the people that are on this show tonight, man, they are saying that rock is in good hands moving forward with you. So that's
Oh,
cool,
right
man.
on. Thank you, guys.
That's cool. Man, I want to stay in touch with you, dude. I want to see what happens. I want to see how the story progresses, and maybe we can do this again when Robbie's not battling the LAX nightmare of trying to get back home from Florida. We can have you back on because I think that'd be cool, man. And I think Robbie and you would really have a lot in common. Obviously, Robbie's a freak on the guitar,
Hmm.
and I think you could do some fun stuff together. Suzanne Quain, where did that tree come from? Hobby Lobby. That's where it came from.
You never know.
I've got a new backdrop tonight. Normally I'm in my radio studio, but COVID kicked my ass a little bit more than what I had cared for, and so I'm just trying to chill out and not go out too much right now.
Yeah,
But what's that, brother?
I was just gonna say, just taking it easy, just like the Eagles prescribed.
That's it, brother. That's it. Funny story about the Eagles, since you brought them up, I'm going to share it with you. I was in Scottsbluff, Nebraska.
Hmm.
Okay. And so you go to hell and you take a left and you wind up in Scottsbluff. That's how you get there. So I was working in radio and I was also working as a commercial applicator in pesticides. So I went out to farms and these big spray rigs and I'd spray their farms for pesticides, insecticides, and all that fun stuff.
Oh, okay.
And I went to this huge ranch just outside Scotts Bluff, and this old boy in this truck is following me around in this old Ford, like 100, old school Ford,
Oh.
following me through the field all day long. And I'm like, yeah, Chad Hartstron, easy there, Drake. He says, yeah, because Chad's still up there. And Chad, you know who I'm about to talk about, right? So anyway, this truck's following me around. I'm cruising through the field, and I get ready for lunch, and this dude pulls up in his truck, and he's like, hey, man, you want a bologna sandwich? Okay. So we sit on the tailgate of the truck and we eat lunch and all this stuff, and maybe an hour, just shooting the shit and having some fun. And I leave and I get back to the office, and they're talking to me and they're like, hey, did you get to meet Randy? Randy who? He's like, Randy Meisner, man. That's the ranch you were just at. I'm like the Randy Meisner, like the Eagles Randy Meisner? Like, yeah, dude. I'm like, I got a bologna sandwich from Meisner. That's cool as hell. I had no idea.
That's really cool.
Yes. Hobby Lobby is extremely dangerous, and you don't want to go there if you're not extremely rich.
Yeah. Or it's like right after Christmas.
Right. Yes, then they have got the good sales. Man, rock is in good hands, they said. Yours and Robbie's, Drake's. Man, we're all here too. Absolutely, LAF. We appreciate that very much. We'll keep this going as long as possible. We postponed on Luis Maldonado, obviously the guitarist from Foreigner, formerly of Train, last week. We're going to have him on next week. He's rescheduled with us, so he was gracious enough to do that. Tammy, yes, you know I was the water boy there for a while in Nebraska. Nebraska was a weird experience, man. It was cool. I miss it at times, but I'm definitely glad to be in Texas. So you're still living in Cali, right, brother?
Yeah. I'm still up here. We're still in the Sacramento area. A couple of years ago, we were debating whether or not to ship me out to like Nashville or LA, because you really up here, there's a lot of great opportunity, but it's just like magnified to 100 in like Nashville or LA,
Yeah.
really, you know.
Nashville is definitely a hot spot, man. I mean, I've got mixed feelings on Nashville. I work with an artist out of Nashville. Her name's Morgan Miles, probably
Mhm.
one of the most absolutely talented singer songwriters I've ever dealt with in my life. And Nashville is not very friendly to females. So, as a male,
Hmm.
it's a very great town to come through. But for females, it's very, very difficult. So,
Oh, that sucks.
but I know a lot of the guys like Jeremy Popoff from Lit. They just started a new deal down there in Nashville. Obviously, Kid's got his place with Hank Williams Jr. They got Redneck Paradise down there, and they got the other
Mhm.
bars down there that they're working with. So, man, I mean, the music down there is just freaking phenomenal right now.
Oh, I
You got to
can
check
only
it out, man.
imagine.
Check it out. Get out there.
Yeah, we'll just have to look at the flights and show up.
Right? Maybe we'll have to have you out here in Texas for a show sometime, man.
Yeah,
I'm,
I actually have a buddy who you may have heard of. His name is Griffin Tucker, and he's out of the Dallas area, and
yep.
he got picked up by a band out of LA who's now going to be the support for Def Leppard and Motley Crue in that huge tour, which is fantastic. Their name is Classless Act.
Right.
And I actually met Griffin at NAMM last year in 2020 for like 2 minutes at the Ernie Ball booth because I was hanging out with Frank. They wanted to meet Griffin, and I was like, okay. So we were all hanging out, and I didn't want to be rude and take up a bunch of everybody's time. So I met his mom. She was really nice. And I met him. We kind of like fist bumped and talked a little bit about music, and then we kind of split off and went our separate ways. But I kept in touch with him via Instagram, and I made a joke because he was like, yeah, man, I really wish we could have jammed while we were in LA. And I was like, well, Texas is just a short flight away. And he goes, oh, well, in that case, are you free from this date to this date next month? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, just fly on over, come and stay with us for a week and let's jam.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so I told my mom, I go, Mom, how are you going to get the time off work for this? She goes, what do you mean? You're going by yourself. You're an adult. You're in your 20s. Come on, dude. And I was like, okay. And so I hit them up. I was like, yeah, man, let's do it. So I went over there for the first time. His family is so fantastic. We went to a couple of jams, and I believe they had a gig that I was able to. I didn't bring my lighter because of airports and all that stuff and COVID.
Right.
But I brought my flashlight out, and I was still working it as if it was a lighter. And so from that relationship, it's just been super cool to watch him grow and get this super awesome opportunity to be able to travel the world and stuff. And Texas, man, it's real. The food just don't even compete with California.
Right. Yeah, Texas is a different breed of its own, man. It's a good place. So, yeah, we can definitely have you. Somebody said to do a charity show at my farm. I don't actually have a farm, but I do own a golf course.
Hey, there you go.
And that golf course is now becoming a concert venue. Myself and my business partner, Patrick Klain from the State Line Band, which you can see the banner down here at the bottom. Go to trrma.net, vote ballots. They are in the running for the best band in Texas.
Wow.
So every vote counts, man. And they're going against some big boys, so they need our help. So let's get you out here. We'll have some fun. Austin, I appreciate you so much for joining us tonight, man. This was fun.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Big shout out to Jody Best at Best Bet Promotions. Man, Jody's legit, dude. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, yeah. Jody's a sweetheart.
She's good people. She's good people. So she gives us a great lineup and helps us out and helps you guys out. So I appreciate Jody very much. All right. So, dude, we're going to end it together. Normally, Robby and I end the show together, but I think you and I will just end it together and we'll call it out. You ready?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Austin Moe, check him out wherever you can. Look on YouTube, all the Spotify's. Get his music. Pay attention to this kid. Support him. Do everything you possibly can. Austin, Drake, it's the Hangout Live. Until next time, we love you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.